In this video, I want to discuss reading for our Modern Latin American History class. So the two main books that we'll be using are Problems in Modern Latin American History. This one is edited by James Wood and Anna Rose Alexander. Um, you can see the light shining off of that. So this is the 5th edition. I did mention that it's okay to use the 4th. If you do have the 4th, though, you'll need to contact me because there are a couple things that come out in the 5th that are not in the 4th, and I can give those to you as a PDF. Earlier editions are just way too different from what we'll be mutually reading and discussing in class, so they won't work, and they're a lot older. All right, and then John Charles Chasteen, Born in Blood and Fire, is the kind of main textbook for our course. And so I want to talk about what I just meant by saying it's the main textbook, and also how to approach reading for our class. So a textbook, of course, provides the kind of the big picture, the broad context. That's what Chasteen does. And as we read in Unit 1, one of the things that he was most concerned about was trying to figure out how do we write a unified narrative of a region like Latin America that is so widely diverse and varied in terms of culture, histories, language, and so on. How can we really talk about a unified history of Latin America? Well, he's done it thematically, is what we'll come to find out. And I think that works fairly well, but something to keep in mind is this is an approach. This is a historian's methodology. You could get other Latin American history textbooks, and they would go more country by country rather than trying to write a big unified story. And there are positives and negatives to both. For me, in a sweeping survey class like this one, so again, what I mean by that is we're trying to study all of Latin America's history since about 1800 to the present in our class this semester. In this kind of a class, I really like his approach because it helps us to keep those main ideas and themes unified in our minds. In the Problems book, this is a series of case studies. Case studies maybe not quite the right way to put it, but each chapter corresponds to a specific theme. It's not necessarily the themes that Chasteen has, but they're very related and similar. But what Wood and Alexander have done is they have excerpted both primary and secondary source materials on those themes and on those particular moments in Latin America's past to give us some very concrete and specific examples to help us hear the voices of some of the people who were involved in that history. And of course, along the way, because they were doing what they could do to try to bring together the history of this whole wide continent, and I said continent, but it's like most of a hemisphere when we talk about Latin America geographically. As they did that, they of course left some things out. There are other perspectives that we would like to see, and I'm sure questions will arise for you as you complete the reading. So again, these are the two most important books to focus on as we go along each week. I've also included a podcast episode in each unit to help add a different example, a different perspective, more clarification. Podcasts, of course, are secondary sources. Excuse me. So the hosts of the podcast, the producers, did research and put together a story around a specific question. You can see Mowgli back there. And so that's kind of where those two books are coming from. So you'll want to look to Chasteen to get the big picture. You'll want to look to Wood and Alexander for more specific examples. And in the next video segment, I'm going to kind of walk you through the books themselves to show you how to read them. Because contrary to what you may have been taught before about history, when you're reading an academic nonfiction history book, you don't necessarily read it cover to cover. It's not like a novel in that way. You want to work through it much more methodically, and I want to give you some of those tips so that you'll be able to manage your time very well and get the most out of our class this semester. So that's what we'll get into in the next segment, those specific tips.